Okay. Good morning, everyone. Wonderful to be with you all. Thanks for joining this morning. Have a lot to share, as always. A lot going on here, and just very grateful for the time to be able to be with you all. So, thanks for waking up this morning and being here via the regular Call to Calm link on Zoom or through YouTube, our weekly multi-stream over there. So, a lot happening, so many places that I could start. Don't even know where to begin. So I'll just do my best to get as much as we can into the time that we have. First of all, very grateful for all of you. Very grateful for your courage, your vulnerability, your willingness to be who you are, your commitment to stepping into the truth of yourself, and the courage that it takes to finally move beyond the fear that has kept you distant from your infinite potential. Also, I feel like now more and more you're beginning to have moments of clarity, moments of experiencing yourself as the peace that you are, the potential that you are, the truth of yourself. And so this illusion of a ceiling or a block or a limitation is gone. One of the things that we have to address, and this is coming hot off the heels of last Sunday's group alignment session and our impact call last night, so this will be a wonderful refresher for all of you impact folks, is the conscious recognition that actually it's stress. Stress is the foundation of identity. It's the reason why you became successful. It's why you became, it's why you didn't even bother in some cases. It is the root cause and the foundation of your energy and your ego. And people wholeheartedly misunderstand ego and identity. In spirituality and personal development, it has been falsely misdiagnosed as a limitation. It is not. As long as you don't feel safe, it's very much a necessary layer of interpretation. So it's not that it's wrong, it's not that it's bad, it's not that it's getting in the way of anything, because even while you're in the experience of your identity and your ego, you're still at your infinite potential. It has nothing to do with who you are at the level of your soul, your being, your authentic self. And so this is exactly why now it's okay to acknowledge that you are 100% powerless as it relates to who you are at the level of your ego and identity. Because you have tried everything available to you, every technique, every modality, every teaching, every PDF presentation, every meditation practice that you know to try, and subsequently it has not liberated you of the very thing that keeps your entire present experience of life intact. So why stress? Well, because stress, the post-traumatic kind, or just stress in general, keeps you trapped in the past. And who you are at the level of your identity, the created self, requires the construct of time to continue to exist. If you think about it, everything that you talk about in relationship to yourself, you talk about in relationship to yourself as it relates to the past. You're never really ever speaking about yourself in the present. And when you are you actually talking about yourself, or are you just like a sports commentator narrating your present moment experience of being alive? And so what robs people of aliveness in the present is the inability to move on from the stresses or stressor of the past. And for some of you, that stress or stressor came in the form of a highly volatile, totally unpredictable parental unit who was very quick to rage, very quick to violence, very quick to anger, or there was just some form of abuse or trauma there. And now the stress of that has led to this adaptation, this layer of interpretation called identity and ego. Is everyone following me so far? Leave me a 1 or yes in chat if you are. Now, why is this important? Because we're living in an age and a time where humanity is being reacquainted with the truth of itself, the love that you are. Look at you, you're adorable. Of course, that's the truth of you. And at the same time, you're still holding on to this stress, right? This stress. And actually, the identity, when you look at the identity, when you look at the ego, the sole reason why you've created it is to avoid experiencing that stress ever again. Okay? So just close your eyes and just take some breaths, because more than anything, I love being able to show you all in real time. And just becoming aware of your breathing. If you'd like, you can close your eyes or not, doesn't matter. And just becoming aware of where the stress is. Now, we've been exploring this now in Impact for about a week. We've been exploring it in the group alignment sessions too. Another one's coming up on Sunday. And what I can tell you is that when people started to tune into where their stress is, they began to identify it in their stomachs, which is interesting because so many of you have had such intense digestive issues for so long. People also began to report they were feeling it on their heart, on their chest, like a weight. And the most common place was at the back of the neck and the shoulders, which of course is a very obvious place that people think of when they think of stress, because more often than not, when you're holding on to stress, you become overly responsible. Leave me a 1 or yes in the chat if you are one of my overly responsible friends. You know, responsible for everything and everyone, just in the hope that one day everyone will just finally leave you alone so that you can live your life and be at peace. Fantastic. So, just continuing to be aware of your breath, and once you become aware of where the stress is, now, I'd like to highlight a point here that's important. Sometimes, if there was any sexual abuse or trauma, you'll experience that stress in the area of the pelvis. Now, the blessing is we don't need to know what happened. We know that the story and the interpretation of it is fundamentally useless. So if you don't mind, you courageous, powerful beings, we're just going to welcome the stress. Keep breathing, keep relaxing. Now, you're going to think that this stress has to do with surviving your dad and his rage, or the volatility. You're going to think that this stress has to do with surviving your mum and the unpredictable nature of her moods. Some of you are aware of the source of the stress, so much so that you married it again, just because you couldn't get enough of it, or at least have dated it enough, or now it's your children, or grandchildren, or co-workers or colleagues. But just becoming aware of it. Let me know where you're feeling it the most in your body. Just giving your body a wonderful little scan. And just becoming aware of it. Okay, Panache Desai, I'm hearing you. Where am I holding on to this stress? And who exactly have I been surviving? Who exactly or what exactly have I been surviving? For some of you, it's not a person. More often than not it is. Like yesterday when I did a survey in our impact community, more often than not, this stress was related to an individual. However, sometimes it's a circumstance like extreme poverty or extreme wealth. Either one of those can be stressful. So just getting in touch with where the stress is. And also noticing that the reason why you have not been able to live in the present moment is because you've not been able to identify the source of the thing that keeps you tethered to the past. Never in a million years would you have come up with stress. It's the foundation of identity and ego. Thank God for Impact and this wonderful Call to Calm community and all my group alignment session folks. So keep breathing, keep relaxing. And if you would like, if it's not too deeply personal, if the stress is of the post-traumatic kind, or just the stress of surviving an individual, and just to be clear, what are you surviving? You're surviving the survival of others. Does that make sense to you? Hopefully that doesn't sound too Yoda-like. Right? Can you see that, like, even if it was dad, right, that you've been doing your best, you beautiful human being, to survive the survival of dad, right? To survive the survival of mom, to survive the survival of your siblings. So ego, identity, is just a construct, a creation, a manifestation that you put in place to survive the survival of other people. So we're going to share something with you all, actually, that I shared yesterday, which will be very helpful for you all. Do you know how in the good old days we had family albums and photos? You know, the really embarrassing kind that your mum decides to whip out whenever you bring your first crush home from college, right? It's like, oh yeah, grandma or mum are just insistent on wading through picture after picture after picture of you, seemingly, more often than not as a child, arse naked, embarrassing the living daylights out of you. And they call you their family. And they tell you that they love you. Hello. Not to reignite anyone's trauma, but keep breathing, keep relaxing. So, getting in touch with the family picture book or album. Yes, we used to have those, kids, before phones, before iPhones, Android phones. We used to have albums with pictures in, black and white ones sometimes. And what we're going to do, if it is indeed a family member who is a source of distress, is just update the family album. Okay? How many of you remember having a family album with honest to God photos that somebody actually took with a camera that wasn't attached to a phone? Thank God. Good. Excellent. So, we're just going to update the photo of the person who is the source of distress. So more often than not, you'll discover that the dad you have now is not the dad you had then, right? So you don't have to keep surviving your dad in the present because your dad is not the same person. For some of you, your father's not even alive anymore. Your father's infinite, eternal, and immortal. Golden light, shimmering, sparkling, bedazzled like an iPhone case. Unbelievably blinged out. Not the same thing at all. Or mum, or anyone else, right? So just take some breaths and just updating the family album so that the family member who was the source of the stress can now be updated to who they are and how they are in the present. For some of you, your dad, who was unpredictable and who could go off in any second, has now become a teddy bear. For others of you, that individual is not here. So just taking a moment to update the family album and all of the photos. And all of the photos. And what are we doing? We're bringing that relationship into the present moment. We're bringing that relationship into the present moment. So for those of you that are more visual, use the family album. Now, for those of you that have come to the conclusion that these family members are beyond ever changing or being different, that they're still carrying on with the same energy that they had in the 60s or 70s or the 80s, you need to accept that you're totally powerless in relationship to them. That no matter what you've tried, no matter what you've done, no matter how you've lived your life, you have been totally powerless at the level of your identity as it relates to them. And just remember that you are only ever powerless at the level of your identity. You cannot solve a problem at the same level of consciousness at which it was created, right? The part of you that is surviving their survival cannot be free of the survival. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Sorry to sound very Yoda-like. Let me know if you're all still with me. I love you all. Huge day today. So the part of you that came into being out of survival, because you were surviving that individual, whoever it was, cannot liberate you of the survival. Do you understand? So what is ego? What is identity? It's just a layer of interpretation. It's a layer of interpretation. And we're not giving them an award. We're just accepting the fact that we're 100% powerless as it relates to them. Yesterday I found myself saying this. The kitchery is already cooked. Arroz con pollo is already cooked. The paella is already cooked. The biryani is already cooked. There's no going back and changing the seasoning. Do you understand, beloved? Do you understand? So coming into the complete acceptance of the powerlessness of that relationship dynamic. Good, everyone. And as soon as you become aware of who you are at the level of your identity and your ego, all of a sudden your whole life makes sense. All of a sudden, your whole life starts to make sense. Why you married who you married, why you dated who you dated, why you work where you work, why your financial situation is the financial situation, why your health is the way that it is, why you became famous, why you became successful, why you didn't even bother. But once you know yourself at the level of your identity, you're free. So the key here is to know yourself and to be honest about it. Blimey, I've invested a lot of time, effort, and energy to try and prove that I'm not like my dad or mom. Holy moly guacamole. Take some deep breaths. I'll have a side of that with my arroz con pollo. Gracias. Keep breathing, keep relaxing. Let me know when you get to the holy moly guacamole moment. Wow, all of a sudden, my whole life makes sense to me. Of course I'm in a relationship with this person. Of course I have business partners that behave this way. Of course my children behave this way. Of course. Look, all of this came from survival. All of this was born out of my need to survive my parents' survival. Good. Take some breaths and breathe and relax. Holy moly guacamole. And a side of plantains. Plantanos, por favor. Keep breathing, keep relaxing. Extra frijoles. Leave me a one-erest in the chat if you're beginning to see this, you beautiful human being. For so many of you, this was a source of the addiction too. Right? You know, the 3 a.m. stuffing your face with nachos. So, I want to try something. I can't promise it's going to work, but can we at least try it? Let's try it. Let's imagine for a moment that this familial survival is like a river. And it's flowing through you. And all you've been doing is trying to survive it. Basically, you've been spending your whole life trying to prove that you're not like the person who was responsible for the survival in the first place. And you've discovered that you are exactly like that person. Ta-da! Surprise! That we've all actually become the very thing that we have held responsible for the stress or the trauma. So, I'm going to try something. Close your eyes and breathe and relax. Just imagining for a moment that there are some... Who builds... Is it otters or beavers that build dams? Which one? Please tell me beavers, because I love them. Fantastic. Just imagine that a gang of golden beavers present themselves on the shoreline of this river of survival that's flowing through you. Not just any ordinary beavers, golden ones. Not your typical domestic kind of beaver, but a golden luminous one called Boris. And Boris and the gang all of a sudden start being able to, in some amazing way, redirecting the route of the river in only a way that a beaver called Boris could ever manage to do. Next thing you know, instead of having the survival of another person and then trying to survive the survival of another person, Boris and the gang simply get that you are now complete with this deep immersion into this human experience that has provided you endless amounts of empathy and compassion, and you no longer need to remain stuck in it in order to be able to make the difference that you've come here to make on this planet. Boris winks at you. Next thing you know, the entire river of survival that's generational begins to be redirected away from you until you find yourself standing at the shore, at the the bottom of the river, and there's no longer any water. Just taking some deep breaths. Thanking Boris the beaver and the gang of golden beavers. All of a sudden you find all of these places and spaces of survival that you've been holding on to just dissolving inside of you. So if it is indeed in your pelvis, now, it just starts to disappear and dissolve. In your stomach, it just starts to disappear and dissolve. If it was indeed a heaviness or a weight that you were carrying around on your heart, your chest, it just begins to disappear and dissolve. Same thing with the back of the head and the shoulders, where you lovingly hold on to all of your tension because you've become overly responsible for everyone. And by the way, that hasn't made a difference either. And then, feeling this stress, post-traumatic or just your regular variety of stress, which in and of itself is challenging on the best of days, gone. And where there was that river of generational survival, your father's father's survival, your mother's mother's survival, someone and your Aunt Betty's survival, Uncle Ben's survival, generational. Now there's just emptiness. There's just space. There's just clarity. Just clarity. And in that clarity, you find yourself profoundly present. Let me know when you begin to find yourself profoundly present. Leave me a 1 or a yes in the chat. Now, instead of there being a river of survival flowing through you that you keep recycling and repeating, even though you swore you never would, now you feel empty, still, hollow, harmonious. There's an equanimity. Feels a bit weird, honestly. You're not used to not surviving something. So just taking some deep breaths. And just totally relaxing into it. And just noticing that the body is now totally relaxing. Maybe for the first time in 70 years, 80 years, 60 years, 50 years, 40 years. All thanks to Boris the Beaver, and the gang of golden beavers. Sounds like the name of a great rock band. Boris and the Golden Beavers. Keep breathing, keep relaxing. Yay. And we're just going to also update your agreement with life to where now you don't have to hold on to all of this stuff in order to be able to be of use in this world. You can just be the love that you are. You can just be what you are, which is love. Or who you are, which is love. Good. Leave me a 1 or yes in the chat when you can feel a shift inside, internally, in your experience. All of a sudden it's like, oh, I get it. Wow, my whole life was about surviving the survival that I experienced in my family or in my siblings. Huh. And my ego and my identity was nothing more than a layer of interpretation that I introduced into my experience in order to feel safe or maintain some semblance of control. So your biology is now a biology of the present. How many of you can feel that? Like all of a sudden it's like, wow, this is what I feel like in the present. Instead of, wow, I just keep recycling the 1978 version of me. And I get it. It feels a bit weird. Empty, spacious, still, calm. It's bizarre. But nonetheless, here you are, in the present. Here's your body in the present. And I shared this yesterday. I don't just want you to get this intellectually. I want your body to get it. Once your body gets it, it becomes real for you. So just keep breathing and relaxing. And just allowing your body to get it. Feeling it in your physicality. And just noticing that there's no pain in you anymore. There's just a flow, an infinite flow. There's no pain. There's just an infinite flow. Almost as though the energy that's present at the base of your spine is the energy that's present at the crown of your head. Your north poles become your south pole, and your south poles become your north pole, and everything that indigenously inhabits these ecosystems is now confused. They don't know what they're doing anymore. Wait a minute, we were the South Pole, now we're the North Pole. We were the North Pole, now we're the South Pole. Even Santa's confused. Everyone's confused. The energy that's present at the base of the spine is the energy that's present at the crown of the head. Being able to take a deep breath. And just allowing this flow, this peace, this stillness, this equanimity, this harmony to expand. So getting to a place where you just come into the complete acceptance of the powerlessness. And recognizing that this powerlessness is actually an entry point into infinite power. Yes, of course, there's nothing that you can do about it at the level of your identity or your ego. However, you can totally just accept the fact that you are 100% powerless as it relates to other people, other people's emotions and thoughts and feelings, because you are. And instead, relax into the infinite power that's always dwelled within you. I'd like to thank Boris and the beavers for being the best golden beavers any human being could ever meet. I'd like to thank all of you for just freeing yourself of generational survival, which was the root cause of why you needed to construct an identity in the first place. Your sparkation begins, beloved. Your sparkation begins. Yay. Okay. Laurel. Stop typing Om Shanti. There is honestly a beaver emoji. Adorable. Golden heart. Thank you, Laurel. 1,541 days of call to calm. That is a wild statistic. So grateful. All right, close your eyes and open your palms, you beautiful humans. This is probably now about the 5th time I've told you to close your eyes and open your palms. And I'm going to tell you some more. So there you go. Just in case. Good morning, sweet friends, and welcome to another Call to Calm meditation. There has been a fundamental misinterpretation or misdiagnosis of why you are struggling and of why you continue to push away your broader potential. You see, the real reason is stress, either the post-traumatic kind or just the stress of surviving the survival of a parental unit, both parental units, a family dynamic, circumstance, or situation. And of course, up until this point, nobody's been able to tell you that it's stress. Some of you have then gone on to create these elaborate identities, gone on to have amazing careers, build empires, generate fortunes. Some of you just didn't even bother, because what's the point? But ultimately, everything that you've done in your life has been nothing more than an adaptation so that you could finally one day no longer experience the stress related to the survival that you've gone through, and so that you could stop surviving the survival of others. The only problem is that no matter how elaborate and intricate and bedazzled a facade you create, you can't escape the stress. Because all of this came from identity and ego. At some point, you have to accept that it is in fact a stress, post-traumatic or otherwise, that has kept you anchored in the construct of time and that keeps you distant from the infinite power and potential that is available to you in the present. In the present, there is no ego, there is no identity. There is just infinite light and energy and love. Take some long, deep cleansing breaths, you beautiful human beings. Close your eyes if you have not already done so, and take some long, deep cleansing breaths. Resting in the awareness of your breath transforms your life into a living meditation. Becoming aware of your every inhalation and exhalation. This morning, seated where you are or laying down, we're going to give our egos and identities a Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you for trying so valiantly to protect me and keep me safe. I am grateful for you, ego and identity. And I'm grateful for everything that we've accomplished together. Presenting your ego with a lifelike statue of itself, because seemingly that's what they give to everyone who accomplishes anything in their lives of meaning, a statue, and giving it a hug. I just want you to know that as much as we have endeavored to survive this and to remain safe, that actually we have failed miserably at it. turning around together and observing that there is still a very scared, very frightened little being, just dazed and confused, trying to figure out what happened, why these grown-ups keep behaving in the way that they do, that just feels totally powerless and hopeless in relationship to what's going on. See? Look. She's still there. He's still there. Yes, you accomplished all these things. Sure, you made more money than you could ever spend in 3 lifetimes. Or you just didn't even bother, because what's the point? Either way, look. This part of us, the part of us that was overwhelmed at a very early age, is still overwhelmed. Together, hand in hand, you and your ego, get down on the level of this beautiful, sweet being who just can't figure out what on earth is going on, and you just give this little teeny-weeny manifestation of you the biggest hug imaginable. Introducing it to your ego, and your ego explaining to it that it tried its hardest to protect it from the anger, from the volatility, from the trauma, from the chaos. And this little sweet being giving the ego a hug, and also thanking it for its valiant attempt at protecting it. Continuing to rest in the awareness of your breath, until eventually the ego and the identity is relieved of its duty, the layer of interpretation that you insert into everything to exert some illusion of control over your life that you actually don't have. So the ego is like a head-on collision in a car and then inventing airbags. This morning, just accepting the car crash, accepting the parent, accepting the situation at home, the circumstance, just accepting it. Recognizing that in the same way, it's a bit hard after you've crashed the car to invent airbags and all the safety features that you need for a car, because the crash has already happened. In that same way, it's a bit late to have this layer of interpretation after the fact that makes no difference to the fact that what happened happened. Just continuing to rest in the awareness of your breath, you, mini you, ego you, all hugging each other. Until eventually, ego you disappears. And this child pulls out of its pocket a box called responsibility. You open up this box and you discover a note in a child's handwriting that says, "I am responsible." You begin to feel a welling up of emotion within you, that somehow this little sweet being has made itself responsible for all of this survival, all of this struggle. You take out a magic eraser and you erase the words I am, and you replace them with 3 words: you are not responsible. You put them back in the box called responsibility, and you give it back to this little sweet being. The box disappears, the being disappears, the burden is lifted off of you. And for the first time in 50, 60, 70 or 80 years, you're finally able to take a deep breath. Taking that deep breath now. The weight lifting off of you, the fear shaking out of you, the survival leaving your body and your biology. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a golden beaver named Boris appears, begins to give you a neck massage. Somehow there's a gang of golden beavers. Just start massaging your shoulders with their tiny beaver paws, just able to find every knot, every point of tension, until all of a sudden your shoulders feel freer and looser than they ever have. Oh, and your neck is just open and loose. Thanking Boris and the beavers, you take some long, deep cleansing breaths, and you begin to notice that you are, for the first time in your life, profoundly present. Like a hollow piece of bamboo. That there is no content, no information, no emotion, no thought, no belief system running through you anymore. That there's nothing to control, nothing to overcome, nothing to adapt in the face of. That there's just a perfectly still pond. Perfectly pristine flow. And just a feeling of being profoundly present. Profoundly present. Yay. Just noticing how you feel. And allowing this experience of being profoundly present to expand exponentially within you. Until your body is profoundly present, your mind is profoundly present. At the level of feeling and emotion, you are profoundly present. Actually, all that you are is profoundly present now. Take some long, deep cleansing breaths and just notice how you feel, you adorable human being. Just notice how you feel.